not only did the legacy media create that entire falsehood that people bought into, but also the legacy media with their fake polling. What was the name of the one that wouldn't let Rasmussen in that Disney was running? 538.
Oh, Nate Silver's 538. Yeah.
You had this entire enterprise that not only do they make up the fake stories, then they make up fake polling, and then they buy into it. These people bought into it. And so they were making these products, whether it's TV shows or movies, whether it was video games, books, comics, whatever it was. They were making all this stuff for an audience that never existed.
Renegade Online. All right, so let's get into this Disney CEO race amid the Great Hollywood Walkback. A new HR tweak, which comes in the wake of Kimmelgate and an MPA sponsorship of the group behind the president's military parade and rallies, provides the latest sign of just how far the once proudly progressive entertainment industry has pivoted during Trump Mark II. Implications for the Disney leadership bake-off are becoming clear. And look whose picture there is. That is Josh D'Amaro, head of the Disney Parks division, the parks and experiences, which include the parks, which includes the hotels, which includes the cruise ships, the single biggest portion of the Disney company in terms of revenue generation and profit. Yep. Remember, a year ago, we were talking about Dana Walden. A lot of people were talking about Dana Walden. And that attention has largely shifted focus. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Does a guy like Josh D'Amaro really kind of step in and run the company as Bob Iger would have, especially with a lot of focus being paid to the Hollywood elite crowd? Because my understanding, D'Amaro doesn't really run in that crowd. He's a parks guy, right? DEI is for everyone now. So went the first response in my text chain of Disney friends when I asked what they thought of the new human resources overhaul at the company. It was never announced externally, but last week, Sonia Coleman, and that's a name we've talked about before, Disney's top human resources executive, sent a company-wide email revealing a broad rebrand for her unit and its terminology. A lot of it was the usual silly corporate speak about the large publicly traded company's people-first philosophy and innovative approach to enabling success, language that resulted from dozens of meetings and millions of dollars in consulting fees. Human resources becomes people and culture, Coleman's email read. Talent acquisition becomes talent connection, and so on. Stupid language changes, right? People and culture department instead of human resources. I just changing the name, we're doing the same damn thing. But hidden among all of the feel-good pablum, Bellany says, Coleman also fulfilled a promise that Disney made back in February. In her note, she revealed that the company has scrapped its internal diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in favor of, wait for it, opportunity and inclusion, which Coleman explained now means empowering all through access to opportunity and a culture of belonging. Emphasis is Bellany's, he says. I know. This is how scared Disney is of Trump, Elon, and the culture wars. A Disney representative told me we're continuing to evolve our holistic approach to align with our business goals and company values, a process we began nearly 2 years ago. Now, let me say this. I think I've mentioned this before in the show. Does anybody out there think that them changing the name like this ultimately is going to amount to a hill of beans? 30 years ago, we called it global warming. That didn't work. So they changed it to climate change, right? It's just, okay, we're going to move. We're going to call it something else now. But really, we're still doing and talking about the same thing. And that word belonging, right? That was that belonging thing. That was the next phase of DEI, was belonging. You've heard people on YouTube talk about that. You've heard people like Kersha talk about that before on her channel. Kersha's been on this channel before. So, I mean, it's one of those things to where it's out there. I don't necessarily think this is a change, but they're at least going to outwardly try to say that, hey, we're going to go ahead and go along with this. We're going to go ahead and make sure that y'all know that we're going to play ball since America doesn't like virtue signaling DEI crap anymore, right? The studios have neutered the aggressive diversity initiatives that had been building for a decade and hit overdrive in 2020 as the George Floyd protests raged. Yes, let me tell you what. Good Lord, you go back in 2025 and look at everything that messed up culturally. Look at how many video games have absolutely collapsed. It destroyed hundreds of millions, billions collectively in shareholder capital and invested capital on DEI projects, all based around that event that, of course, didn't medically, according to evidence in the court records, didn't quite turn out the way that a lot of people thought it did. And it goes back to what we saw, years before with Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and on and on and on. There was so much wrapped up into these kind of cultural events that then you find out later that, okay, maybe we misread the room.
And you got to blame it on the legacy media. I mean, that was all driven by the legacy media deciding to put out a false narrative. And that is of course, Elon Musk with X. And that's why, by the way, and we may talk about it in the course of this topic we're on right now, that's why they're freaking out about Barry Weiss taking over CBS News, as we all predicted that she would. They're freaking out because if she does that, she may clean house like Elon did with X, and then you've got this counter narrative that can, let's just call it the truth, that might get out on network news. Boy, how's Disney and NBC? How are they going to like that if CBS is actually over there telling the truth?
Well, that's just it. And again, it's going to be the first one out the gate. And I talked about this, I guess, probably about 2 weeks ago now before I left to go to Orlando. That was something that came up, and I probably talked about it on Renegade Nation. But I said, whoever's going to be first out the gate here, if this happens at Paramount, if it happens at CBS, and they're going to start cleaning things up, it's going to force NBC and ABC to react because the audience is going to show up. The audience is going to show up over there, okay? It may take some time. It's not going to be instantly or overnight. But there's going to be a shift, and you can either react to it and get in on the game, or you continue going down the road that you're in where, let's face it, these newsrooms, CBS, ABC, NBC, they've all been big losers for years. And when I say years, they were losing money back in the 90s. Rush Limbaugh was talking about the money they were losing. In the early 2000s, Limbaugh was talking about the money they were losing in these newsrooms. I mean, it's what it is. So if you're actually going to try to get audiences to engage, just like whether it's the movies that we talked about earlier, you're going to have to actually give them something that they want to either see or they trust going to see. But you look here, I mean, Paramount publicly announced the end of its DEI initiatives recently, including a CBS mandate that at one point wanted people of color to comprise 40% of some TV writers' rooms. Right? Now, again, you're talking about, I guess they consider anybody a person of color to be not white. I mean, but again, I go back to this argument of if you want your staff, if you're going to deliberately try to hire based on racial or ethnic issues, well, then what's your audience, right? What if your audience is like 90% white? Evening news probably is, to be honest with you. I mean, it probably is a bunch of old white folks sitting around.
So let's talk about missing the demo then, okay? Because this really matters. What you're talking about, what Puck is talking about here, is the idea that, going back to 2020, there was this atmosphere all across the country, and you're exactly right that we are just now flushing out the final projects, especially in gaming, that have these long development
gestational periods.
Gestational periods. Well, here's the thing, Valiant.
Assassin's Creed Shadows, guys.
Not only did the legacy media create that entire falsehood that people bought into, but also the legacy media with their fake polling. You remember, what was the name of the one that wouldn't let Rasmussen in that Disney was running? What was that one? 538? Yeah, 538.
Oh, Nate Silver's 538. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you got that. You had this entire enterprise that not only do they make up the fake stories, then they make up fake polling, and then they buy into it. These people bought into it. And so they were making these products, whether it's TV shows or movies, whether it was video games, books, comics, whatever it was. They were making all this stuff for an audience that never existed. Mm-hmm. So it was bunkus on both sides.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. And at the end of the day, it's, again, you cannot hire based on, you can't say, well, 40% of the people that we're going to need to hire will have to be black or Hispanic, or so. You can't do that, right? We've been down this road before because it violates civil rights laws and statutes at the federal level. And again, this is what they hate about Trump, because he's actually going to, like, no, wait, we're going to enforce the law. We have these laws in the books. So a lot of that needed to go away anyway, because it wasn't helping companies to any degree. Hire the best person for the job, period. I don't care what they look like or where they come from. That's it. But I mean, when you start doing anything other than that, we talked about that before, it works out poorly. And we've seen this happen a lot with Disney, or at least it's been a lot more obvious with places like Disney than anything else, because you see it wind up happening at the box office, and it's disastrous.
And what was Disney doing, Valiant? The crazy thing about Disney is they were giving Bob Iger and a bunch of the other executives raises based on how much diversity there was underneath them. So what
IBM was
really
doing
about? It was
IBM
about
was
paying
doing
Whitey.
Yeah. I mean, and that's,
Bob Whitey Iger.
There were a lot of industries and companies out there. I mean, we played clips a couple of years ago from the famous Zoom call with the CEO of IBM at the time, talking about how, don't forget to maximize your bonuses by making sure you've hired enough people of color. It's like
it's from the heart. It's from the heart, Valiant. I mean, the money's just the cherry on top. These people, down to their cores, they are empathetic, caring individuals. When the ICE stuff is happening, they're the ones opening their gated communities and bringing in the hot Colombian refugees. They're the ones. Oh wait, that's Mexican Iron Man. Sorry.
Yeah. Oops. I think just before you hopped in, I was even asking the audience I was even asking people to speculate, with a guy like DeMauro, who's no evidence I'm aware of that he's any type of Hollywood type creature like Iger or Walden are. Does Disney, and this is going to be the question to see what happens, and I think there's going to be like a lot of nods early on to Bob Iger and his legacy and all this, if DeMauro is actually going to be the heir apparent. But 1 or 2 years removed from Bob Iger, is a guy like Josh DeMauro going to still continue to dump $1 billion a year into Hollywood, pet projects for people he doesn't really probably care to hang out with? Is he going to keep stealing money from the parks, the division that he has built, the last several years at least?
Have you heard the rumors about who Bob wants? Have you seen that at all?
Who Bob wants to replace him?
Yeah. So we've got
a variety of rumors. Yeah.
We've got some pretty good sourcing on this. Credibility, maybe, that Bob Iger, because of his wife Willow, that they want Dana Walden badly, but that Gorman, what's Gorman's first name?
Jim Gorman from Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, Morgan Stanley. Yeah. He's the head of the board now. That he's big time Josh DeMauro. And the source that reached out to us said the reason for that, the reason that the institution seemed to want DeMauro, is because they see him as totally malleable. He'll do whatever they say, whatever they tell him to do. He comes in, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, to the institutions. Whereas Dana Walden comes in and maybe is very loyal to Bob Iger and to Willow. And she's
a Hollywood creature is the problem. Yeah. And this is, you cannot have, we've talked about this, but you cannot have, because Disney, frankly, it is a theme park company. And I think if nothing else, this is why you put DeMauro at the top of it, because that's what drives the company. And the last thing you need, is some other Bob Iger acolyte like a Walden, or somebody that is going to be beholden to, spending a bunch of money that's being generated from places like theme parks and piss it away on a bunch of overpriced, hyper expensive, over lavish, over indulgent movie projects that all fail. I think that's one of the reasons that DeMauro, probably out of any candidate that at least has a reasonable chance. I mean, we could throw in, what if they go get this guy, that guy? No, realistic chances of who is going to be the next CEO. Take DeMauro. And again, I would much rather, to be honest with you, and people don't flip out, listen to what I'm about to say. I would much rather take my chances with somebody like DeMauro, who is going to be at least perhaps somewhat compliant, because they are your bosses, right? The big institutions, because they own the majority of the shares that vote for people like DeMauro and board members, right? But I'd rather have somebody like DeMauro who is at least somewhat malleable to what Wall Street, because Wall Street's just going to want to make money, right? The problem is, like we've talked about for years since we've been on this channel, is that Bob Iger is the opposite. Like, Wall Street goes to him. What do you want us to do? Like, whatever Bob Iger says, it's gold, right? As opposed to Wall Street going, Bob, you're losing your ass on all these movies. Maybe we should reconsider things, right? Because he keeps spinning the same stuff. And it's just whatever Bob Iger says, they lap it up. It's ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
I've been trying to figure this out, Valiant. Have they broken the record this year already for the most flops in a single year for a single studio or single distributor? I've been trying to figure this out. I'm on the cusp of doing it. I didn't know if you'd already
22, 23. I mean, where they lost in that span. Well, it straddled over 2 calendar years, but that loss year where they ran all the way up through Indiana Jones and the Dial of Pooh. Lilo.
Only movie that's made money this year is Lilo and Stitch. That's it.
No, we talked about it earlier. I said Disney's probably sitting around. It's got to be still sitting around 600 plus million now with Tron Ares in there, even with Lilo's profit margin or profit they got off that. I mean. Oh, and I forgot about Elio earlier. Holy crap. I forgot about Elio altogether.
Yeah.
Everybody forgot about Elio. I wonder why. So, yeah, forgot about that. So, I mean, they're going to be up there. I'll have to go back and
Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Snow White, Elio, Fantastic Four.
I mean, Freakier Friday did okay, I guess.
No, it's a flop. I looked that up, actually, because I thought, it's got to cost nothing. There's no way it could flop.
It was like 40 million, wasn't it?
It capped out at 180 million. You think about marketing, it had to cost 100 million. It had to. I mean, even at 40 million on production with advertising thrown in it, it had to be 100. That means it needed 200 to break even.
It may well have, yeah. It may well. That's what I said. I don't think it did great, but I don't think it didn't do as bad as some of the other ones. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.